Ladies and gentlemen, I have just received word that the men of the 2015 graduating class of Morehouse College are ready to step from the historic Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel and are lining up on Westview Drive. Ladies and gentlemen, they are on their way. Welcome to the 2015 Morehouse College Commencement Convocation. Those of you who were here on that hot August day 4 years ago know that we gave you a promissory note at the parents' parting ceremony, asking you to let go of the handlebars and let your son ride. Let go of the handlebars and let him ride. In turn, we made a promise to you, and that promise was that this day would come. Today, we are pleased to make good on that promissory note and to tell you this morning it's commencement time at Morehouse College. Ladies and gentlemen, it's commencement time. I now call your attention to the screen where you may view the pageantry that is taking place as the graduates make their trek to the Century campus where we are waiting for them to arrive. The procession will pass through a magnificent human corridor formed by Morehouse College faculty, staff, and members of the alumni reunion classes. At the end of the corridor stand members of the faculty, the men and women who represent the past, symbolizing the training and professional development of these young men as they prepared to go out into the world. A little farther down the corridor are the alumni who have come back to celebrate their classes in reunion. They represent the future and the ranks that each graduate will join during the ceremony this morning when they will be inducted into the National Alumni Association as, guess what, Morehouse men. The front of the line is led by drummers in the African tradition. These are some of the same drummers who led your sons into King Chapel on the evening of their first day here as freshmen. Leading the academic procession is Dr. Tobe Johnson, the senior-most faculty member at the college and member of the Morehouse College class of 1954. Dr. Johnson is a longtime professor of political science, former chair of the department, and former interim dean of the Division of Humanities and Social Sciences. He has been at the college for more than 50 years and has touched the lives of thousands of Morehouse men. Immediately behind Dr. Johnson, carrying the mace of the college, you will see Dr. Lance Shipman Young, Associate Professor of Chemistry and member of the Morehouse class of 1995. Dr. Young is celebrating his 20th reunion today. Dr. Shipman Young served as the interim chair of the chemistry department from 2009 to 2010. He is co-director of the Maximizing Access to Research Careers program at Morehouse College, which supports students in the biomedical and behavioral sciences. This is Dr. Shipman Young's second year carrying the mace for the college. The Chief Academic Officer and second in command at Morehouse College is Dr. Gary Kai Campbell, Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs at Morehouse College. Dr. Campbell is a mathematician by profession and joined Morehouse last year from Swarthmore College. As the line continues, you should see the senior class marshals. Mr. Alvin Darden, Dean of the senior class, and Dr. Keith Hollingsworth, Chair of the Department of Business Administration. Leading the class of 2015 are the Valedictorian, Mr. Derek Sherrod Brown, who is the student with the highest grade point average of 4.0, all A's for 4 long years, all A's. And the salutatorian, Mr. Jarrell Lamar Baker, who earned the second highest grade point average, 3.96. Mr. Brown is a political science major from Jackson, Mississippi. This is the second year in a row that the valedictorian has come from Jackson, Mississippi. He and last year's valedictorian also happened to attend the same hometown church. Will somebody please tell us what's going on at Jackson, Mississippi? The salutatorian, Mr. Baker, also is a political science major, and he calls both Detroit and Atlanta home. Mr. Baker and our valedictorian were roommates during their time at Morehouse for 2 years, and they remain best friends. You will learn more about these outstanding students a little later in the commencement exercises. For the past 4 years, our graduates matriculated in academic divisions, and today they are lined up accordingly. The first is the Division of Humanities and Social Sciences, led by Division Chair Dr. Mel Foster. The Division of Science and Mathematics is led by Dr. John K. Haynes, and leading the Division of Business Administration and Economics is Dr. Juliet E. Liu, standing in for Dr. Cheryl Allen. The men in this class are from 50 states and several foreign countries. They are from Alexandria, Virginia, Port Royal, South Carolina, Memphis, Tennessee, Los Angeles, California, Brooklyn, New York, and Millington, Tennessee, Seattle, Washington, Kansas City, Missouri, New Orleans, Louisiana, Detroit, Michigan, Houston, Texas, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Kingston, Jamaica, Baltimore, Maryland, Nassau, the Bahamas, Little Rock, Arkansas, and of course, Atlanta, Georgia, to name a few. They are more than 400 strong and hold majors in 26 academic disciplines. Most members of this class were born in 1992 and 1993. You may remember, mothers, the average income was just under $32,000 a year. The average cost of a new car was less than $17,000. The cost of a gallon of gas was between $1.05 and $1.10. The cost of a first-class stamp was 29 cents. The most popular movie of 1992 was the animated film Aladdin, and the #1 song on the Billboard charts was Michael Jackson's Black or White. Much has changed since then. But one thing remains the same. Your care, your love, your concern for your son as you nurtured him through his pilgrimage toward excellence and achievement. Coming up next, standing on the steps of the Kilgore Campus Center are members of the Platform Party, including the college's 11th president, Dr. John Sylvanus Wilson, Jr. Also standing there with the president are members of the Morehouse College Board of Trustees, led by Mr. Robert C. Davidson and the Honorable Deval Patrick, former governor of Massachusetts, who is the speaker for the morning. During the day, you will see two founders' representatives. They are dressed in Oxford gray cutaway coats, hickory striped trousers, matching Oxford gray vest, and black satin top hats. Oh, they make a grand presentation. There you see the platform party on the steps of Kilgore. When the last student clears the gate on Brown Street during the procession, the sentinels will close the gate behind them, symbolizing the end of an era in the lives of graduates. As the long line moves up the hill to the Century campus, the sound of the drums grows louder, and one can feel the energy, the anticipation, and the excitement as we prepare for the crown. Listen to the sound of the drums. Listen, listen, listen to the sound of the drums. In the urgency of prophetic moments, melding with rhythms and cadences of marching feet of Morehouse men. Ask me what is leadership, and I will show you a Morehouse man. Ask me what is servanthood, and I will show you a Morehouse man. Ask me what is brotherhood, and I will show you a Morehouse man. Ask me for someone who can get the job done, and I will show you a Morehouse man. And ask me, what is the pursuit of excellence? And I will show you a Morehouse man. Listen to the sound of the drums. Listen to the sound of the drums. In the urgency of the prophetic moment, melding with rhythms and cadences of marching feet of Morehouse men. Listen to the sound of the drums. The men of the class are now standing at the top of the majestic hill, where many great men before them stood. This hill is one of the highest points in altitude in the city of Atlanta. Let the drums grow silent. Let the drums grow silent. Let the drums grow silent as we prepare for the crowning. Morehouse holds a crown above the heads of her sons and then challenges them to grow tall enough to wear it. 4 years ago, you brought your sons to us in order that they might grow tall enough to wear the proverbial crown of which Dr. Howard Thurman spoke. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the crowning moment has arrived. For your son has indeed grown tall enough to wear the crown. A few days ago, When all the grades were in, all scores were tabulated, and all assessments were made, over 400 men stood at the gate of the world and petitioned entry. And the world asked, who are these 400 men standing on yonder hill, and what do they represent? And Morehouse answered, these are they who in the prophetic fulfillment of their dreams represent the best in ability and capability that the world needs. These are they who are ready to do God's work in the vineyards before them. And the world asked, by what authority do they march today? And Morehouse answered, they march by the authority of their conquering spirit as they challenged all obstacles, defied odds, and contradicted statistics that said that they would be a jailmate instead of a college graduate. Then the world asked, who are those who will stand as a cloud of witnesses to the redemptive fulfillment of their dreams? And Morehouse answered, these are they with tired feet from working on second and sometimes third jobs to make mortgage payments on refinanced homes, on high interest loans, on maxed out credit cards, to pay tuition and purchase books, to pay rent, and to purchase tablets and iPhones and iPads and Androids and laptops in order to give their son the chance that they may never have had themselves. And the world asks, who gives testimony to that journey? And Morehouse answered, that journey is sanctioned by the tears of a praying mother. Morehouse answered, that journey is sanctioned by the faith of a loving father. Morehouse answered, that journey is sanctioned by the care of a watchful grandfather, a grandmother, the love of a loving sister, a brother, a auntie, a cousin, a uncle, a godparent. Morehouse answered, that journey is sanctioned by those who may have had to do without and make do and get by so that their son could wear the kind of clothes he wore and drive the kind of car he drove and eat the kind of food he ate. Morehouse answered, that journey is sanctioned by somebody's vigilance as he or she walked the floor way in the midnight hour, sending up fervent prayers, not knowing what to do or how to do it or when to do it, when the pink slip came and layoff followed and savings were spent and foreclosure was imminent. They didn't know what to do, but all the time they were hoping, and all the time they were believing, and all the time they were trusting in a God, in a God, in a God who would surely make a way somehow. And because of these prayers, sacrifices, and unyielding faith, these young men march today in the powerful and collective presence of their accomplishments and the fierce promise of their ability to change the world. And the world proclaims, they are ready, they are ready, they are ready. Let them enter and register to be certified in this moment of their crowning. And so today, men of the graduating class of 2015, put on your crown. Put on your crown of love and compassion and honor and decency and dignity and integrity and peace and goodwill and excellence in all things. Put on your crown and wear it well. For now the battle is over. And now the victory is won. As they come a-marching, as they come a-marching, as they come a-marching, wearing the crown. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2015 graduating class of Morehouse College. Let them enter.
Good morning. My name is Gadikai Campbell, and I am the Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. Our Founders Representative, the Reverend Dr. Woodrow Miller Jr., will now come for the ringing of the bell, which will be followed by the evocation by Bishop Sedgwick Daniels, pastor of Holy Redeemer Church of God in Christ in River Hills, Wisconsin.
Good morning. I am Woodrow Miller Jr., pastor of Harmony Baptist Church in Augusta, Georgia, the second home of that institution that would one day become Morehouse College. The ringing of the bell from the first church, Old Silver Bluff Springfield Baptist Church in Augusta, where Morehouse was originated, was also the clarion call of our founder, the Reverend William Jefferson White, who convened the first Equal Rights Convention in 1866. That historic has cast a long shadow at Morehouse. As the founder's representative, I am honored to declare that the 148th school year of Morehouse College is now closed, and the 131st commencement exercise is now in order.
May we bow our heads in a word of prayer. Great Jehovah, we humbly approach thy hallowed throne, where seraphims, cherubims, and the spirits of the just cry, holy, holy, holy. O El Shaddai, the Almighty and the forever I am supreme deity, graciously endow us with your coveted presence, that we may become infused to enhance our divinely commissioned mandate and empowered to transform finite human agendas into spiritually inspired manifestations. Most sacred Lord, breathe purposely on global communities throughout your universe until righteousness flows as an uncontrollable deluge. Justice evolves as a catastrophic tsunami, and liberation erupts as an uncontainable avalanche, so that humanity may rise and encircle your will as our chief purpose, and that we may pursue your glory until we are baptized in revelation. Let us rise until tangible concepts become intangible reality. Let us rise until human abilities become divine potentials. Let us rise, Lord, until secular objectives become sacred enactments. Lord, lift us up where we belong. You have done it before. Lord, do it again. When polytheists dared to consume your glory, you said to Abraham, the monotheist, rise. When oppressive societies enslaved your chosen ones, you said to Moses, the liberator, rise. When misguided, backslidden communities converged to dishonor the sagacity of your holiness, Lord, you said to Isaiah, rise and tell them that they that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. Lord, you said rise. To Ezekiel through a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Lord, you said rise. To Jeremiah through a fire that would not consume, like fire shut up in his bones. And then, Lord, you said to Daniel's Hebrew friends, rise, don't bow down, lest we forget the only begotten who warned a hostile community. You may spit on me, nail me to a tree, pierce me in the side, place a crown of thorns around my head. But whatever you do, don't let me rise. For if I be lifted up from the earth, I will draw all men unto me. Now, Lord, as we come to this historic moment, 2015 years later, the 15th year and the 5th month, speak again to these Morehouse graduates so that they may ascend courageously to new horizons, echo the melody and harmony of our unsung ancestors who sacrificially trailblazed our destiny, that they may unashamedly affirm their cultural identity and unapologetically proclaim truth that transcends generations and enthusiastically forge a litany declaring that there will be glory after this. Let these men rise. In the name of the Lord we pray. Amen.
Please rise. Please remain standing for the presentation of colors as the Mundy's Mill High School Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps comes forward. The presentation of colors will be followed by the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner and Lift Every Voice and Sing, led by the world-renowned Morehouse College Glee Club, under the direction of Dr. David Morrow, Morehouse class of 1980, and accompanied by Dr. David Oliver, college organist. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 11th president of Morehouse College, a member of the class of 1979, Dr. John Sylvanus Wilson, Jr.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Good morning. Chairman Davidson and other members of the Morehouse College Board of Trustees, members of the Platform Party, distinguished guests, alumni, and friends of this great institution, members of the faculty and staff, family and friends of our graduates, and most especially the members of the graduating class of 2015. We welcome you all to the 131st Commencement Convocation. This has been another exceptional year in the history of Morehouse College. We have experienced a number of outstanding achievements this year, and I'm pleased to share just a few. One of our students, Darius Atkins, has been chosen as one of the 58 students across the United States honored with the Harry S. Truman Scholarship. It's a scholarship that goes toward graduate education. Darius is a junior political science major with a concentration in American government. He is also a Bill and Melinda Gates, a Millennium Scholar. He is the only student from an HBCU chosen as a Truman Scholar for 2015. The Beinecke Scholarship Program supports graduate education in the arts, humanities, and social sciences. This year, Rami Blair, a junior French major, was awarded that distinction. Let's give him a hand. The legendary Dr. J.K. Haynes was chosen as a champion of change by the White House in February. J.K. is a member of the Morehouse class of 1964 and has served as a research scientist, professor, and administrator at Morehouse College for more than 36 years. Now, when I became president of Morehouse College, I declared we want to go to the Final Four. Well, that already happened. It just happened. And I'm not talking about basketball. You see, the Final Four in the United States University's debating championship featured these four teams: Harvard, Yale, Brown, and Morehouse College. We got to the Final Four, and next year we will win it. Our debate team won the Pan American University's debating championship in January. They are top 10 in the United States among 400 debate teams ranked, and they are top 100 in the world among 800 debate teams ranked. And this team is led by Ken Newby, class of 1995. Let's give them a hand. Now, we also have a moot court team. And for the last 7 years, the moot court champs have been from Patrick Henry College. And they won consistently, being all the Ivy Leagues, because they had a $5 million endowment behind them. Well, this year in the finals, they came up against Morehouse College. And their $5 million made them the second place team in the world because Morehouse won. This team is led by alumnus Winfield Murray, Morehouse class of 2007. In October, Morehouse was ranked the number one HBCU by bestcolleges.com and among the top 3 HBCUs in U.S. News and World Report. Our cross-country team won its 7th consecutive crown, taking the 2015 SIAC Men's Cross Country Championship and the track and field team won the SIAC championship for the 9th time in 10 years. You know, there are state competitions for the best college newspaper, and the best college newspaper in Georgia is the Maroon Tiger from Morehouse College. Many of you watched as junior Jeffrey Golden won season 7 of BET's Sunday Best. Not only did he beat out all of the contestants to win that gospel music competition, but he also won a cash prize and a recording contract with Kirk Franklin's record label. Let's give Jeffrey a hand. And last but in no way least, I would like to recognize many of the graduating seniors who have contributed to the advancement of the college in numerous ways. At this time, I would like to thank the 21 graduating seniors who have served my office as presidential ambassadors. Please stand, all 21 of you. Let's give them a hand. Now, if you remain standing, these outstanding men of Morehouse have assisted me in greeting guests of the college, both in academic settings and at the Davidson House, and have been very effective in representing the very best of Morehouse College. I personally thank you for your service to the college as we recognize today as the anniversary of the Supreme Court decision on Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education, which was decided 51 years ago on this very day and banned segregation in public schools. You can agree that today epitomizes the fruit of that decision, and these young men are at the top. Thank you. They have moved successfully along their educational journey toward goals they have set for themselves, and today, in a few minutes, they earn the privilege of being called Morehouse men. At this time, let me ask another Morehouse man to extend greetings, a member of the class of 1967 and chairman of the Morehouse College Board of Trustees, Mr. Robert C. Davidson, Jr.
Thank you, Mr. President. With all of those accomplishments, I think the class of 2015 would say, we could stop now, hand out the degrees, and go home. Are you ready for that? I didn't get any response out there. All right. On behalf of the Morehouse College Board of Trustees, I welcome all of you to the Morehouse College Commencement exercise for the class of 2015. Parents and family members of the graduates, thank you for your love, prayers, and sacrifice. Faculty and staff at Morehouse, thank you for your dedication and service. And to the many friends of Morehouse College, we appreciate your support, loyalty, and generosity. Thank you for your help in making this day a reality for these fine young men who dreamed of one day graduating from a place called Morehouse College. To the class of 2015, I honor you today because of your commitment, hard work, and determination. Each of you decided just a few years ago to accept the challenge to begin the journey to become a Morehouse man. While the journey ends today, the responsibility is endless. From this day forward, great things are expected of you. Much has been sacrificed to help you get to this day. Your responsibility is to continue to work hard, be better than average, to press forward a higher standard, and to strive every day to ensure that your success validates that sacrifice. Congratulations on your achievement, May God be with you as you begin the next phase of your lives. Thank you. Godspeed.
Thank you, Chairman Davidson. Since its inception, Morehouse College has produced countless alumni whose life's work has made an impact on the nation and the world. Our pantheon of distinguished alumni range from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to Olympian Edwin Moses, to my classmate, filmmaker Spike Lee, and business executive and new visiting trustee, Robbie Robinson. And there are many more stars on our educational horizon. Alumni like Darius Quarles, a 2013 graduate who came to Morehouse with more than $1 million in scholarships. Now he has started his own online platform called $1 Million Scholar to help students to secure financial aid for college. Dr. Paul Judge, class of 1998 and recent Benny honoree. Dr. Judge is a successful innovator, entrepreneur, and investor who holds more than 30 U.S. patents and is now creating his fourth company, having sold the first three. Let's give him a hand. Rashid Davis, class of 1992 and founding principal of New York's Pathways in Technology Early College High School, also known as P-Tech. He has been cited by President Obama and other international leaders for his pioneering work in developing a secondary education model that connects high school, college, and the world of work through college and industry partnerships. He is on the cutting edge. Let's give him a hand. And it is noteworthy that Kenneth Grimes, class of 1990, Craig Drake, and Randall Kane, both from the class of 1991, these three are the first ever CEO management team of Morehouse men to manage a multi-billion-dollar investment firm called Herndon Capital Management right here in Atlanta. Let's give them a hand. These men and many others are blazing new trails and continue to make us proud by making a profound impact on the industries and communities that they serve. Men of Morehouse, I look forward to calling some of your names as you go out into the world and realize your destiny. Never forget your foundation here at Morehouse. Be sure to let us hear from you often and share your accomplishments with us so that we can celebrate them in this same way. We can celebrate your achievements. Now, we want to recognize a few special people here now. First, we want to recognize our most senior alumnus. His name is Albert Gaston, and he is celebrating 65 years. He's in the class of 1950. Here he is right up front. Celebrate you. 65 years ago, he graduated. I want to say amen to that. We also want to recognize three very special alumni from the class of 1955 who represent several others of our most senior alumni present. Here celebrating their 60th anniversary are Dr. Ira Harrison, Dr. John Simmons, and Mr. Franklin Porter. You stand. Stand if you can. Amen. Amen. Please join me in a round of applause for all of the Golden Tigers. I know there are some who did not make it beside those three. Let's give them all a hand. Celebrating their 55th reunion is the class of 1960. Please welcome Judge Alfonso Adderley, Richard Everett, and Benjamin Bendu Logan, among other members of the class. All of the class of 1960, please stand. Each year, a very special group of alumni reaches their 50-year milestone as Morehouse men. During this milestone, they are inducted into the Golden Tiger Society. Celebrating their golden anniversary are Bob Steele, Henry Lookup Thompson, and Dr. Marcellus Barksdale, chair of the Morehouse College 150th Anniversary Planning Committee, and the rest of the class of 1965. The Golden Tigers, please stand. Golden Tigers. 50 years ago they came. Thank you. Celebrating their 45th are Board Vice Chair Jim Moss, Charles Allen, and the mighty men of the class of 1970. Would you please stand? Class of 70. Celebrating their 40th reunion, Morehouse President Emeritus, Dr. Robert Michael Franklin. Harold Dean Trulier, Michael Lindsay, Aaron Parker, and other members of the class of 1975. Will you all stand? Celebrating their 35th reunion are Dr. David Morrow of the Glee Club, Jerome Menifee from the class of 1980. All of you, please stand. Celebrating their 30th reunion, we have Trustee Stan Washington and visiting Trustee Willie Woods and other members of the class of 1985. Would you please stand? All right. And Silver Tigers, who joined the ranks of Morehouse men 25 years ago. They include Gregory Burrell, Kevin Salter, Dennis Pemberton, Morehouse Associate Dean of Students Kevin Booker, and the rest of the class of 1990. Please stand. Thank you. Celebrating their 20th reunion are Mosi Tull, Morehouse Assistant Provost David Wall Rice, the mace bearer during the procession, Dr. Lance Shipman Young, and the class of 1995. Gentlemen, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. And that class happens to include a visiting trustee named Lamel McMorris, who is among those who has contributed to the King Chapel restoration, and he recently wrote a check for $100,000. I need you to stand, Lamel McMorris. I need you to stand. We thank you. Celebrating their 15th reunion are Dr. Thomas T.J. Jones, Jason Edwards, and the class of 2000. Please stand. Class of 2000. Celebrating their 10th reunion are Darren Hicks, Chris Sweeney, and the class of 2005. Would you please stand? All right. And finally, Aaron Campbell, Tyrone McGowan, Herman Riley, and the class of 2010. Please stand and celebrate your 5th reunion. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, last night, and take a lesson from this class of 2015, last night, these men gathered for their reunion banquet, and they handed to us over $1.2 million cash last night. They deserve a hand. Amen. And now, We invite all remaining Morehouse alumni to stand and be recognized. If you graduated from Morehouse College, please get on your feet right now. Members of the Morehouse faculty and staff, would you please stand? Let's give them a hand, class of 2015. All right. And I see over to my left, your right, the new Miss Maroon and White and Court for 2015-16. Would you please stand? Thank you. Now we have two very dedicated faculty members who will be retiring this year. Our faculty members are the heartbeat of this institution, and we are grateful for all of their hard work and dedication. Let us recognize Dr. Annie Baird, who has been shaping students for nearly a lifetime. She will be retiring this year as professor of sociology after 44 years of service. Dr. Ann Baird. And a member of the class of 1966 will retire as professor of modern foreign languages and director of the Center for Teacher Preparation. Dr. Charles Meadows has served Morehouse College for more than 40 years. Would you please stand, Dr. Meadows? If you can. Amen. All right. Now we would like to introduce some of our special guests who are with us this morning and ask that they stand and be recognized as I call your name. The president of the Morehouse School of Medicine, Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice. Please stand, Valerie. All right. The Reverend Dr. Edward Wheeler, president of ITC, new president of ITC. Please stand. Dr. Sherry Turner, executive director of the Atlanta University Consortium. I don't know if she's here. Amen. Honorary degree recipient Cicely Tyson, who is here to support one of her scholars. She's up on stage with us. Miss Cicely Tyson, among the best actresses in the world. Also with us today are Dr. Cheryl Goffney Franklin, former First Lady of Morehouse College and wife of Dr. Robert Michael Franklin. She's right over here. Mrs. Diane Patrick, the wife of our speaker this morning, the Honorable Deval Patrick. Would you please stand? There she is there. Mrs. June Gary Hops, the wife of the late former Provost John Hops, for whom the Hops Scholar Program is named. Would you please stand? Amen. My mother is here, Janester Nix Miller. Would you please stand? And my wife, Dr. Carol Espy Wilson. Would you please stand? Thank you. At this time, I am privileged to recognize our class salutatorian. This gentleman has maintained an impressive 3.96 GPA. Allow me to introduce our salutatorian, Mr. Gerald Lamar Baker. Please stand. Gerald is a political science major. He was raised in both Atlanta and Detroit, and he is son of Sheila Holden and Karan Baker. Gerald has served as a community organizing intern for the City of Atlanta Neighborhood Planning Unit and Community Development Coordinator out of the Bonner Office of Community Service. He's done that for the last 3 years. He has focused on community and economic development in impoverished communities. His interest in development led him to take on projects with organizations like Habitat for Humanity and the United Saints Recovery Project. He has also traveled abroad to Haiti and Belize, where he led and participated in other development projects. Gerald is a member of Phi Beta Kappa, and he was named one of the 43 Global Humanity Action Fellows for 2015. This year, Gerald was also recognized by the Maroon Tiger student newspaper as the 2015 Man of the Year. And in the fall, he will attend Columbia University as a Thomas Pickering Foreign Affairs Fellow. At Columbia, he plans to do a master's degree in international affairs and with a concentration in economic and political development and a specialization in international conflict resolution. Let us give Gerald a hand as he comes forward to receive his prize. Thank you, Jarrell, and congratulations on a job well done. And as he returns to his seat, we would like to recognize a member of Jarrell's family. Would you please stand? There they are right there. All right. Congratulations. This year, Morehouse College is pleased to recognize an accomplished graduating senior as the class valedictorian. He has achieved an impressive cumulative GPA of 4.0. And he is deserving of this time-honored acknowledgement. Mr. Jarek Sherrod Brown is a native of Jackson, Mississippi. He is the son, homeboy, all right. He is the son of Henry Lewis Brown and Mona Stamps Brown. Jarek also is a political science major with a concentration in American government and politics and an education studies minor. Jarek aspires to teach and establish a career in education administration and educational policy. He is a member of Phi Beta Kappa. He is a Vanguard Scholar and a member of Alpha Lambda Delta Honor Society, Pi Sigma Alpha Political Science Honor Society, and the National Society of Collegiate Scholars. He also was awarded the prestigious Robert A. Brisbane Political Science Award. He has served as president of the world-renowned Morehouse College Glee Club, president of the Morehouse Political Science Association as a student ambassador, and as a member of the Morehouse College Moot Court Society. He also served in the role of secretary for Phi Alpha Delta, the law fraternity. Jarek has maintained the status of highest ranking scholar of the class of 2015 since the fall of 2012. Next month, I am proud to say that Jarek will begin his tenure at the Harvard University Graduate School of Education, where he will pursue a master's degree in education and teaching and curriculum with certifications in political science, political philosophy, and history. At Morehouse, we like to say that our students are like iron sharpening iron. Well, I want everyone in here to take note that Jarek, our salutatorian, and Gerald were roommates for 2 years and remain the best of friends. How poetic is that? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the valedictorian of the class of 2015, Mr. Jarek Sherrod Brown.
Guide my feet while I run this race. My Lord, guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. Guide our feet, O Lord, while we run this race. To Dr. John Sylvanus Wilson, 11th President of our beloved institution. To the Board of Trustees, Governor Deval Patrick, world-class faculty and staff, members of the Platform Party, parents, grandparents, guardians, and other family members who have worked tirelessly to ensure that this day becomes a reality. Friends, and to the reason for the season, the conquerors, my brothers of the Morehouse College class of 2015. Good morning. One of the best things about being from the South, in my opinion, more specifically from Jackson, Mississippi, is the honor of being raised around so many wise, witty, and seasoned people. The walls of their homes and offices may not be adorned with undergraduate and graduate degrees, and the number of dollars shown in their bank accounts may not be punctuated with a lot of commas, but they possess a core value that none of our pockets are yet deep enough to contain: the solid gold of wisdom. I'm reminded here of my great-grandmother, Miss Annabelle Adams, who had nothing more than an 8th grade education, but to this day is the wisest woman I've ever known. She sat me on her knee one day and she said to me, "Baby, you're gonna be something. But I want you to listen to me. I want you to do good. I want you to be good. And I want you to stay in church." So I did. Now, if you know anything about that Southern Baptist church, you know that there's a lot of a foot tapping and a leg smacking, just the old hallelujah good time, with a series of simple but profound messages to serve as a moral compass intended to keep us on the straight and narrow. The simplicity and profundity of those messages are intended to transcend all barriers. So, as I ponder just what to say to such an accomplished group of young brothers as yourselves, I decided, without preaching to you, to channel that Southern Baptist part of me. So first, let's wrestle with this concept of doubt. At this juncture in our lives, many of us allow uncertainty to enter our thoughts and disturb the idea of what the future might hold. Yes, we do not know where this road will lead or whether or not we will find solace in our well-doing. But I charge you to remember that this feeling is not necessarily a new one. Approximately 1,400 days ago, we stood in the sweltering Georgia 90-degree heat, waiting to enter the sacred nave of the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel to embark upon a blessed educational journey. At that time, many of us doubted that we were actually ready for all the hurdles that we could confront along the way. But look at us now. We had doubt that all the times we spent burning the midnight oil would actually result in the grade that we wanted on that test or paper. But look at us now. When we left the clubs long after midnight, you know the ones I'm talking about, we doubted whether or not we would be able to wake up on time and wake up with the clear-headedness necessary to execute those morning presentations that were due. But we did, and look at us now. These experiences remind us that we can lay our doubts aside and have faith in the divine power inside each of us. The faith that our ancestors had when they sang songs like, "Lord, guide our feet while we run this race." You had faith that everything would be okay when you received a phone call one day that a loved one or a dear friend had passed away. For God has sent you a Morehouse brother, plenty of Morehouse brothers, with whom you could consult and who would create a circle of love around you as you coped with your grief. You had faith that this day would come when you looked at your account one day only to realize that you had been purged from all of your classes due to a delinquent financial balance. For God sent the United Negro College Fund, federal work study, endless job checks, and occasionally a restricted scholarship fund to rescue you from your financial abyss. You had faith when you took the GRE, the MCAT, the LSAT, and the GMAT that at your score on at least one of them would open doors to graduate and professional school. And you had faith when you submitted all of your job applications that at least one of them would not return unto you void. And now God has sent a shower of acceptance letters and job opportunities. It seems, my brothers, that without a doubt, we should continue to have faith in God. Last concept I want to emphasize this morning is the power and the authority to affect humane social change. Too often when we turn on the television or read online articles, we are faced with the reality that not everyone values the lives of young African American males. I charge those individuals to take a second look, starting with this class. Just a few moments ago, we were graced with the articulate presence of the incomparable Dr. Ann Wimbush Watts. In her dramatic monologue, she said something like this: "Just a few days ago, when all the grades were in, all the reports were taken, and all the assessments were given, just under 500 men stood at the gate of the world and petitioned entry. And the world asks, who are those men on yonder hill, and by what authority do they march?" Today, the world continues to question our authority in many ways and on many levels. And in this class of 2015, we have men who are poised and ready to respond to these questions. When the world asks, for example, who among you can help bridge the gap, the achievement gap that is, in K through 12 schools here in America, I would direct the world's attention to David Johnny, the leader of the Morehouse Educators Association and HBCU All-Star. Deshaun Adams, a UPS scholar with a commitment to elementary education. And to Darius Williams, who upon graduation will be a certified educator. When the world asks, who among us can be the next movers and shakers of corporate America, I will shine a global spotlight on Galen LaMel Brown, who has interned with and will be employed by Google upon graduation. Malik Ray, who has interned with Saks Fifth Avenue. Wiley Davis, who has interned with Coca-Cola. Kevin Harvey, who has worked with JP Morgan and Comcast, as well as Cameron Weathers, who has experience with Deloitte and has led the Collegiate 100 of Atlanta with poise and grace. When the world asks, who among you can be the most influential new faces on the music scene, I will show videos of Carl Alexander, countertenor extraordinaire, Ian George, Jeremy King, Jelani Watkins, DeMarcus Bell, Johnny Gillings, and Kofi Borgorbe, all of whom are new innovators in that industry. When the world asks whether we are prepared to promote social change through the arts, I will show large images of Jeremiah Thompson, and the world would stare in amazement at Jeremiah's dance technique. And I will also show images of Jordan Gleaves, because his flawless choreography might suggest to the world the elegance and beauty with which people should seek to choreograph their lives. And when the world asks, who among us can follow in the oratorical footsteps of Morehouse giants like Martin Luther King Jr., Howard Thurman, Benjamin Elijah Mays, I would kindly, softly, but passionately suggest that they pay a little attention or pay a visit to a few black churches on a sanctified Sunday morning and listen to sermons by our own Elijah McDavid III or Calvin Jones or Devin Crawford. But first, I would tell the world to prepare to be astonished and then to be absolutely blown away. And when the world asks, lastly, who can achieve prominence in the STEM fields, I would point in the direction of Nicholas Johnson, who would be, upon graduation, working for the National Institutes of Health, and to genius mathematicians and scientists like Akia Richburg, Obasi Etienne, Kevin Borgella, and both Joshua and Tyler Hill. Together, they can achieve not only prominence, but preeminence. All of this is evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that Morehouse is not only prepared to answer the world's questions, but also in the process to reaffirm our humble opinion that Morehouse is the best institution south of heaven and north of hell for higher education. The class of 2015 is evidence that Morehouse College, as Dr. Robert Michael Franklin would say, is the international headquarters of black male excellence and achievement. And it is also evidence that we are redefining what it means to be black men. But not only what it means to be black men, but what it means to be black men in a country where sometimes it seems as though people could care less whether or not we are here in the first place. I would like to end by giving you all a simple charge, including myself. In all that we do, let us remember just who we are and whose we are. Let's remember that we are the light of the world, even in darkest night. Even if we descend to the Dantean depths, we will rise, my brothers. We will rise. Under all adverse circumstances, we will rise. In the name of the Trayvon Martins of this world, we will rise. In the name of the Michael Browns of this world, we will rise. In the name of the Eric Garners of this world, we will rise. In the name of all the men, women, and children who have lost their lives unnecessarily and unfairly, we will rise. Freeing ourselves from the chains of ignorance, we will rise. In the midst of cruelty and injustice, we will rise. For every person's right to vote, we will rise. For the love of all humankind, we will rise. For the healing of the sick, we will rise. For the clothing of the naked, we will rise. For the feeding of the hungry, we will rise. Facing the rising sun, we will rise. Till the dawn of a new day, we will rise. Brothers, we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Thank you.
Thank you, Jarek, and congratulations on a job well done. You are an outstanding example of the quintessential Morehouse man. And as Jarek returns to his seat, I would like to ask members of Jarek's family who are here today to please stand and be recognized. Please stand. Now, before I turn to the Glee Club for a selection, I would like to ask that every single member of the Morehouse College Board of Trustees, including the visitors to the board, please stand on your feet now for recognition. Members of the Board of Trustees, and I need you to remain standing for just 1 minute. I want you all to know that there are a lot of HBCUs that are in trouble right now. And the big difference that will be made will be between the kind of leadership they have on campus and the kind of governance they have in the Board of Trustees. Last fall, I received a call from a billionaire who said, I will give you $1.7 million to strengthen your campus if your board will match it within 90 days. I want you to know that this board, my board, matched it, more than matched it within 90 days, and we got a $3.5 million boost from that offer, and I want us all to give the Board of Trustees a big hand. Thank you. And now we will turn to an anthem, It Is Well, to be performed by the Morehouse College Glee Club.
Oh, Jesus, blessed Savior, it is well with my soul.
the Morehouse College Glee Club, world renowned. Let's give them a hand. It is now my distinct honor to introduce to you our commencement speaker this morning. The Honorable Deval Patrick's story is one for the very history books, a product of the tough circumstances of Chicago's South Side. Governor Patrick's journey would literally begin with a better chance. That was the name of a program focused on leadership development for minority students who were academically gifted. From there, the story continued to unfold as Governor Patrick landed at the prestigious Milton Academy and later at Harvard College, where in 1978 he graduated with a bachelor's degree in English and American literature. After college, Governor Patrick spent a year working with the United Nations in Africa before returning to the United States to enroll at Harvard Law School. He was elected president of the Harvard Legal Aid Bureau. He won Best Oralist in the prestigious Ames Moot Court competition and graduated again with honors with a JD in 1982. For the next decade, Governor Patrick worked as a lawyer for several organizations and firms, including the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and he held senior corporate positions at Texaco and the Coca-Cola Company. President Bill Clinton appointed Governor Patrick to the nation's top civil rights post as Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights in 1994. Governor Patrick made history in 2006 when he won the gubernatorial race in Massachusetts by a landslide. He was the first African American to be elected to the post, and he went on to serve 2 distinctive terms. More recently, Governor Patrick joined the Boston investment giant Bain Capital, where he is directing business investments in companies that produce profits but also have a positive impact on social problems. More personally, I want you to know that when I graduated from Morehouse in 1979, Robert Mallett and I went up to Harvard University, and there was Deval Patrick, and we've had a relationship for the past 35 years, and it has been fun, it has been rewarding, it has been an honor to see his career just flourish. And that adds poignancy to what will happen today. Governor Patrick, Chairman Davidson, and Provost Campbell, please join me at this podium for the conferring of the honorary degree.
Governor Patrick, you have given much of your life to serving underrepresented populations of this great nation in the field of law. And now, as your attention turns to an even greater consideration for social justice and equality by funneling financial support to those areas, we salute you and your immeasurable commitment to public service. Therefore, by the authority granted me by the Morehouse College Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the Honorary Doctor of Laws with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities appertaining thereunto. Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker, the Honorable Deval Patrick.
Chairman Davidson and members of the Board of Trustees, President Wilson and members of the faculty and staff, distinguished guests, reverend clergy, proud family and friends, and most especially deserving graduates of the class of 2015. It's a high honor for me to be with you on this special occasion and to receive this honorary degree. I am, at last, a Morehouse man. In the fullness of time and with God's help, I hope to become worthy of this honor. Candidly, the reputation of Morehouse and my esteem for this institution made me initially pretty nervous about this speech. I have visited this campus often over the years and have many friends who are alums. One of my best friends, himself a Morehouse graduate, told me often that you can always tell a Morehouse man, you just can't tell him much. Add to the Morehouse mystique the universal truth that graduates rarely, if ever, remember who spoke at their commencement, and it's a wonder I showed up at all today. One friend told me to relax because I could say anything this morning so long as it was brief. I got it. I finally settled on my topic on a visit to Selma, Alabama earlier this spring. I was there to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery Voting Rights March. It was a beautiful weekend in every sense. By some estimates, 200,000 visitors descended on a city whose population is normally about 20,000. It was a joyful, chaotic, family occasion. You know what I mean by family. I was invited down by the organizers to receive an award at a luncheon on Saturday and was finally actually given the award at about 6:15 in the evening. I was also invited to give the keynote and receive a second award at the Unity Breakfast on Sunday, but learned when we got to the Sunday program that in fact there was neither a keynote nor a second award on the program. I told you this was a family occasion. My favorite was after the breakfast on Sunday morning, when I was asked if I would attend a pre-march prayer service at Tabernacle Baptist Church, rather than at the church I was planning to visit. Happily. When I arrived, the sanctuary was packed and the choir was in full voice. But instead of taking my seat in the congregation, I was invited to follow the dynamic young pastor up to the altar. Once seated, I was handed a program. I opened the program to see that it read, Sermon by Governor Deval Patrick. Like I said, family. Once my panic subsided, I looked closely out at the congregation. Like everywhere else in Selma that weekend, every kind of person was there. Every race and color, young and old, from all walks of life in every corner of the country. I especially liked seeing how many older folks had brought their children and grandchildren along for a lesson in living history. 50 years before, just like that Sunday morning this past March, ordinary men and women, many of them young, from all walks of life, came together in that very place and places like it throughout the South and the nation, and chose to put aside their fear, lay off their shackles, and shape their own future. Today feels like that, especially after listening to your extraordinary valedictorian. Everybody's here. Family and friends, faculty and coaches and staff, the mighty and the meek, members of great Morehouse legacies, and grandmothers like mine who could never before have imagined being in a place like this. And every one of them, from whatever background, is so proud of you graduates, they're about to burst wide open. These faculty and family and friends have given you the learning and support and love you will need to shape your own futures, and maybe that of multitudes, and we expect you to do so. The words of your legendary former president, Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, are no less pressing today. Not failure, but low aim is sin. To meet these high expectations, my charge to you is to add resilience. Resilience is about flexibility, about the ability to recover from setbacks. In the emotional sense I'm talking about, it demands a mental toughness and optimism in the face of adversity. And it runs deep, but often unspoken, in the tradition of African Americans. If you haven't seen Ava DuVernay's remarkable film, Selma, rush out to do so. It captures so much about that time so many years ago, the broad variety of people who set aside their comfort and conveniences and found common cause. They were old church deacons and school kids alike. John Lewis was just 25 years old when he marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And here's the point. When they got beat down, they got back up and kept on marching. Resilience. And it changed the world. The federal courthouse in Selma sits just above the Edmund Pettus Bridge. From a window in the courtroom on the second floor, you can just see the bridge. 25 years ago, in that courtroom, 3 people, Albert and Evelyn Turner and Spencer Hogue, from a little town outside of Selma, stood charged by the U.S. Justice Department for vote fraud. Their alleged crime, said the Reagan administration, was helping old black people in Perry County use absentee ballots to vote. I was the junior lawyer on that defense team. I remember the Turners and Mr. Hogue as old black people, though in fact, they would only be now the age I thought they were then. The truth is, they were probably the age I am now. But they had known Jimmy Lee Jackson and his family and remembered vividly the night he was killed by state police. They remembered the feelings of fear and intimidation and utter despair. And they remembered putting all of that aside to march. They felt beat down, but they got back up. Resilience. The witnesses in the trial were mostly people in their 70s and 80s. They had personal memories of how much they risked trying to vote, how much they risked just talking about trying to register to vote. They appreciated what it meant to participate because they remembered a time when they couldn't. And so when they learned that an absentee ballot was the way they could exercise their vote, even when they couldn't get off from work or in from the field on time or home from the doctor in the next county, they used it. And over time, all those absentee ballots added up to political power. And that is really what that trial was about. The charges were a response to growing black political power. The government knew it, and the citizens of Perry County and beyond knew it, and a lot of the folks in the black community took that indictment like a punch in the gut. They bent over and in many cases cowed. The same people in the same positions of power were sending them the same kind of message about voting in 1985 that they remembered from the 1940s and 1950s. They felt beat down again. At first, witnesses wouldn't even talk to us. Some wouldn't open their front doors, told us to get off their porches and off their land. We don't want no trouble. That's what they tell you. But gradually, they came to remember their right to vote as the treasure it was, to understand that it was under assault, and to resolve again that voting in person or by absentee ballot was something nobody should try to interfere with. And so one by one, they came out and told us their stories. More importantly, one by one, they told their stories to the jury. And after many weeks of tension and hate mail and the firebombing of the Turners' home, the jury returned a verdict acquitting our clients, the Perry County Three, on all counts. They faced down their fears and kept marching. Now, why am I telling you this story? First, because I want you to know that you are connected to the Turners and to Mr. Hogue. You and I are connected to people like J.L. Chestnut and Rose and Hank Sanders and Andrew Young, to John Lewis and Hosea Williams and Martin Luther King and C.T. Vivian, to the countless numbers of nameless children and grandmothers and sharecroppers and business leaders and clergy and college students who came to Selma 50 years ago to march. We are connected to people who swallowed their fear and their pride to hold our beloved country to account for the yawning gap between her ideals and our reality. People who got back down and got back up and kept on marching. They taught us then and teach us still about moral leadership, about dignified resistance, and most of all, about resilience. And that resilience made America better. Resilience is a proud part of our heritage. Don't forget that. Not on any day, but maybe especially not on election days. The second reason I bring this up is that you will need resilience maybe even more than you realize. Given the pace of change and the tools at your disposal to ride that change, it's an exciting time for you to burst upon the world. You are well prepared and well privileged, but you will still face personal and professional setbacks. There are times when you too will feel beat down. You will need resilience. As exciting as the times are for you personally and professionally, it's a sobering time too. Because beyond these gates and these festivities and the many opportunities that await you, it's a sobering world. Earlier this year, the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies released a study that concluded, among other things, that blacks were the least advantaged group in America in terms of policy outcomes between 1972 and 2010. The Brookings Institution reports that half of black Americans born poor stay poor, and that most middle-class black kids are downwardly mobile. I read somewhere that there are more black men in prison today than there were black men enslaved in the 1800s. 50 years after enactment of the Voting Rights Act, the Supreme Court has gutted a key enforcement provision, and state after state is moving to make voting harder rather than easier. Unarmed Trayvon Martin shot by a neighbor, and unarmed Michael Brown shot by a police officer, and in these and too many other cases, no accountability. A grand jury in New York can't see in the videotaped strangling of Eric Garner what the rest of the world sees. And then comes Baltimore, a sad but unsurprising reality arising out of the very circumstances of crushing deprivation and hopelessness cited in study after study. And strangely, some commentators point to Baltimore with apparent relief, saying, see, it's not race after all, it's poverty. As if that truth is any more likely to spur political leaders to act. We grieve, we shake our heads in disgust, though not surprise, and then, most worrisome of all, we renew the old questions about whether we have made any progress at all. I understand, but that's no way to be. For if it is, we dishonor the example of the marchers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Remember, when they got beat down, they got back up and kept on marching. If they hadn't, imagine if the kids in broken schools and broken neighborhoods in the 1930s and 1940s had settled for that, had let their circumstances define their potential and their zip code of birth define their destiny. Imagine if our forebears had not escaped when they could and called the world's attention to the savagery of human bondage in America. The white men who founded America wrote into our founding documents the values of equality, freedom, opportunity, and fair play, in many cases knowing, I submit, that they were fueling the aspirations of all men and women. When our forebears and strivers of all kinds got beat down and got back up and marched, they did it for those values. Without that resilience, that hunger for hope, we would have had no W.E.B. Du Bois, no Booker T. Washington, no Thurgood Marshall, no Martin Luther King, no Barack Obama. We would have had no black lawyers or doctors or inventors or business leaders or teachers or astronauts or community organizers. We would have had no hope and no progress without the resilience of black Americans. And as we honor you graduates today, I ask you to honor the legacy of resilience that got you here in the first place. And ask yourselves, what are you supposed to do with that now? I hate mob behavior. I hate violence of any kind. I don't want unrest in the streets, but I do want unrest in our hearts and our minds. I do want us all to be uneasy with the grim statistics of black men and families and the widespread nonchalance about poverty. I want us to worry about solutions to chronic suffering and hopelessness in communities a lot of us are one generation from living in. About the fellow soul who, but for the grace of God, is carrying a burden we ourselves have been freed of. I want us to ask ourselves hard questions and start asking our leaders hard questions about the state of the American dream and why the poor are stuck in poverty and why the middle class are one paycheck away from being poor and deeply worried about it. And I want us all to stop being beat down by the despair all around us and get back up and keep marching. We never seem to be able to talk about race in America without acknowledging both the progress that we have achieved and the struggles that remain. Yes, we have haters still, and thousands of others who have overcome their hate and learned to love. Yes, we have poverty still, and thousands of others who have emerged from poverty into wealth and opportunity. All are parts of our reality as a people and as a nation. There are reasons to hope and evidence that resilience delivers progress. My point is that progress always provokes a backlash. Some of us could have predicted that despite the euphoria surrounding his election, America's first black president would, by his presence alone, provoke members of the Congress to act out as they have. That doesn't diminish the milestone. President Obama gets back up every day and keeps on marching. He has, in spite of that backlash, delivered results that have made America more prosperous and more just. The massive resistance he has faced is perhaps why I take an outsized satisfaction from the fact that after some folks tried their very best to bully him out of office, the nation re-elected him anyway. The key for him, for you, and for all of us is resilience. It's about being as mindful and as determined as our forebears to keep on marching. You will get beat down, and you will see fellow souls of every race and kind get beat down around you. But you have a personal responsibility, both to our forebears and to future generations, to get back up and keep on marching. You are a glittering collection of firsts. First in your departments, first in your family, first in your town or your community. You might be one day the first in your hospital or company or state house. But as my friend Doug Wilder, the former governor of Virginia and the first black governor elected in America, says, being first doesn't mean a thing unless there's a second. Resilience. Learn to let a setback be just a setback, not a defeat. The marchers on that bridge 50 years ago taught us something about how vital it is to future generations to get back up and keep on marching. It's a lesson that bears living today. Good luck to you all. God bless you. And thank you for this honor.
Governor Deval Patrick, thank you. I might note that he already sounds like a Morehouse man. And I might also note that among the central figures in his address, seated right on the stage with us, and a trustee of Morehouse College, is Ambassador Andrew Young. Would you please stand and receive our love of you because of all you did. And I just need to say also that we are going to celebrate and honor Trustee and Ambassador Andrew Young tonight. And among the primary sponsors of that honor tonight will be another trustee, a leader in technology on the continent of Africa and in the world. His name is Strive Masiwa, and I want you to stand. And now the Morehouse College Glee Club will perform the spiritual Way Over in Beulah Land by Stacy Gibbs.
We now come to the central purpose of these commencement exercises. The awarding of degrees. The academic leaders of the division will in turn present candidates for the degrees offered by the college. President Wilson, I am pleased to present you members of the class of 2015 who have been certified as having completed the prescribed courses of study and all institutional obligations, meriting the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. In accordance with the recommendation of the Morehouse faculty and the vote of the Morehouse College Board of Trustees, I request that you confer upon these men the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science, as appropriate in each case, with the rights, privileges, and responsibilities appertaining thereunto.
Provost Campbell, I am pleased to accept the faculty's recommendation and the approval of the trustees, and I am honored to confer upon these men the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science as appropriate in each case, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities appertaining thereunto.
We will confer degrees by academic division. Division representatives will now come forward and present candidates for graduation.
President Wilson, it gives me great honor to present the candidates for the Bachelor of Arts degree from the Division of Humanities and Social Sciences. Gentlemen, please stand. Place the hood on your fellow classmates standing in front of you. Please come forward as your name is called.
Deshaun Veantre Adams. Carl Adore Alexander, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Jonathan C. Allen, cum laude. Sean Anthony Allen. Austin Garnett Anderson. Brandon Marcus Anderson, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Edward Charles Anderson III, cum laude. Dequarius Tyvon O'Neill Anthony. Al-Jamil Khalid Arzani. Keith Lamar Austin. Ezra Yao Senyo Arume. Jarrell Lamar Baker, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Alfred Baskerville IV. Walter Jamal Bates. Christian D. Bias, cum laude. DeMarcus Emmanuel Bell. Deshaun LeVar Bennett, cum laude. Tori Julian Best. Mason Derek Bivens, cum laude. Winton Darrell Clarence Borders, cum laude. Corey Bernard Boyd, cum laude. Deontay Kivon Bridges, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Charles Weldon Brooks II, magna cum laude. Jarek Sherrod Brown, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Reginald Tyshawn Burrows III, cum laude. Michael James Butler Jr., cum laude. Kelvin Avery Caldwell. Jonathan Cam, cum laude. Leland Marcus Chapman, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Clarence Renard Christian Jr. Jan Michael Andrew Koch. Kevin Darrell Coker, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Nana Kofi Kandua. Devin Jerome Crawford, cum laude. Demario Bernard Dixon, cum laude. Mark Stephen Doyle, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Stacy Leonard Drakeford, cum laude. Michael Eugene Driver, cum laude. Angelo Dale Drummond. Jeffrey Vincent Dudley II. Xavier Alexander Durden. Bryant Keith Edwards. Darrell Anthony Edwards, cum laude. Roth Cannon Empire, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Brendan Forbes Fields. Kevin Alexander Fleming. Dwayne Lee Flythe Jr., cum laude. David Fritz Fortune. Frederick Alexander Fowler, cum laude. Keith Damon Freeman Jr., magna cum laude. Edward Alfredo Fultz Nar, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Anthony Lawan Gates. Michael Gatewood II, cum laude. Ian Rawl George. Dylan Gibbs, cum laude. Jordan Allen Gleaves, cum laude. Corey Anthony Green. Marvin Alonzo Greer. Ellis Dion Culberson Hampton. Anthony Delano Harris. Anthony Dion Harris Jr., cum laude. Christopher Daquan Harris. Joshua Hiron Harris, magna cum laude. Lasan Andior Harris. Vincent Andrew Hawkins, cum laude. Donald Hayes Jr. Jeremy Kumani Henry. Xavier Laron Herbert, cum laude. Brendan Albert Hibbert. Brendan Jerome Hill, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Devante Marquise Hudson. Derek Alfonso Jackson, cum laude. Courage O. Jacobs, cum laude. Andy Amir Jairam, cum laude. Jimmy Iris Jamerson. David Wesse Johnny Jr., cum laude. Anwar Jabari Johnson. O'Shea D. Johnson, cum laude. Calvin T1 Jones, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Justin Derek Jones, cum laude. Michael Edward Jones II, cum laude. Suleiman Abdul Karim Kenyatta, cum laude. Jabbar T. King, cum laude. Marcus Alexander Lee, magna cum laude. Kyle Christopher Lewis, magna cum laude. Torrance Gerard Lewis Jr., magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Donnie Lee Lindsay III. Jared Anthony Loggins, cum laude. Freddie R. Lopez III, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Darren Wesley Martin Jr., magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Michael Allen Martin. Miles Lamar McCall, cum laude. Kevin Michael McCauley, Sr., cum laude. Jeffrey Lynn McLean III. Reginald Isaiah McCrimmon, cum laude. Elijah Llewellyn McDavid III, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Denzel Emmanuel McGowan, cum laude. Naeem T. Mitchell. Dayer Kadar Mohammed. Antonio Bernard Morgan. Eddie Nakasala Muchemu. Ryan Mary Bruce. Ricky Dwayne Neal Jr. Cornette Alexander Nesbitt. Isaiah Lesseth Norwood II, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Curtis J. O'Neill Jr. Stephen Fullen O'Reilly Poe, cum laude. Christopher Deshaun Phillips. DeMarco O'Neill Petrie, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Velron Debray Please, cum laude. Darian Ryan Pollock, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Joseph Luther Press IV, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Doyle Lardell Randall Jr. Carrington Jamal Raven, cum laude. Bilal Naji Reddick. Matthew Ryan Reed. Jarrett Angelo Render. Melvin Ryan Rhodes. Nicholas Alexander Rivas Sepulveda, cum laude. Samuel Andrew Robertson, magna cum laude. Frederick Daniel Robinson Jr. Kari Elijah Robinson. Laron Stevenson Rogers, cum laude. Alexander Eugene Russell. Christian Leo Saintville. Nail Safwat Salahuddin, cum laude. Richard Darius Sanders. William Malik Thompson Shelton. Vartan Simonian. Malcolm DeMarcus Manson Nigel Saintfield, cum laude. Curtis Eugene Smith II, cum laude. David Michael Lavelle Smith, cum laude. Tamar Tyrell Smith. Mark Anthony Smith II, cum laude. Matthew Carter Smith, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Tavis Kavan Smith, cum laude. Derek Souffrant. Aharoon Y. Sparrow. Karan Aziz Squire. cum laude. Kyle Austin Stevenson, cum laude. Reginald Sutton, cum laude. DeAndre Jawan Swales, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Brandon Denzel Tarver. Jonathan Glenn Tasson II. Devon Christopher Tate, cum laude. Jeremiah Michael Thompson. Travante Shaquille Thompson. Terrell J.C. Thompson. Joshua H. Thurston. Frederick Earl Tippett II, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Christopher Michael Townsend. Gideon Howard Townsend. Jonathan Kofi Holali Vochobe, cum laude. Raphael De Leon Walker Jr., cum laude. Ryan Malcolm Ward. Colin Faulkner Watkins. Jelani Mikhail Roy Watkins, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Aaron Paul Wycombe, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. William Earl Wheaton, cum laude. Hakeem Jamal White. Rodante Leonard White, cum laude. Roland Bernard White, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Darius Jamal Williams, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. DeAndre Dominique Williams. Joseph Edward Williams Jr. Melvin Ross Williams. Colden Alphonse Williams. Donnell Allen Williamson Jr., cum laude. Clarence Paderewski Wilson III. William Robert Wright, cum laude. Hakeem White.
Congratulations. You may now turn your tassels. Gentlemen, you may be seated. One of our students in the Division of Humanities and Social Sciences, who started with the class of 2015, transitioned before completing his journey. We pause today to honor the memory of Mr. John Benjamin Daniel Harris, Jr. John was from Annapolis, Maryland, and was studying sociology at the time of his transition. A chair for him is draped alongside other members of the class to recognize his membership in this distinguished class. In attendance today are members of John's family. Please stand and be recognized. We are pleased to present the certificate of attendance to John Stanley. Thank you.
President Wilson, it gives me great honor to present the candidates for the Bachelor of Arts degree from the Division of Business Administration and Economics. Gentlemen, please stand. Turn to your right and place the hood on your fellow classmate standing in front of you. Please come forward when your name is called.
David Jeffrey Agumya, cum laude. Marcus Anthony Alford. Sheldon Christopher Allen, Jr., cum laude. Mark Anthony Ballard II. Terrence Jamal Balmer, cum laude. Travis Kevin Barito. Alpha T. Barry. David Grover Berry III, magna cum laude. Darrell A. Blake. Joel Samuel Boykin III, cum laude. Ethan Navoy Ross Brown, cum laude. Tariq Jabari Brown, cum laude. Jordan Anthony Bryant. Julian Bryce Buchanan. Denzel Silas Butler. Paul Benjamin Campbell, cum laude. Jackson Benjamin Sheftal Cannon, cum laude. Jeffrey A. Carter II, cum laude. Terrence A. Carath. Rahim Ahmad Cooper Thomas. Isaiah Anthony Coward. Sean Marquette Crane Jr. Timothy Martin Crawford, cum laude. Amon Ra Cunningham, cum laude. Langston Keith Curry, cum laude. Louis Anthony Dancer. Orrin Michael Davidson, magna cum laude. John Tete Davies. Wiley Mason Davis III, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. James Edward Dinkins III, cum laude. Louis Dwight Dix III. Edwin Liddell Dotson, magna cum laude. Cameron Allen Dunson, cum laude. Dexter Eric East, cum laude. Travon Andrew Epps. Bryant F. Eubanks, summa cum laude. Pierre Exie, cum laude. Charles Morgan Flowers, cum laude. Kalen Rashad Franklin. Christian Arthur Fuller, cum laude. D'Angelo Tranoni Gant Jr., cum laude. Cameron DeMarco Gilbert, cum laude. Exadrian Dewan Gladney. Michael Isaiah Glenn, cum laude. Christopher Mark Golson, cum laude. Jarrett Malik Grimes, cum laude. Bobby Lanier Guthrie II. Matthew Daniel Guthrie, cum laude. Nicholas Cameron Hall, summa cum laude. Shelton Donnell Hamilton Jr., cum laude. Kevin William Harvey, cum laude. Langston Drew Hendricks Wright, cum laude. Kareem Yasser Hesmat, magna cum laude. Willie A. Hill II, summa cum laude. Richard Fop Hodge III. Pieris Christopher Hodges. Herberto Cecil Horn. Lester Bernard Hogue Jr. Japhus Devon Ingram. Daniel K. Jackson, cum laude. Trayvon Tyler Jackson, cum laude. Clinton Matthew James, magna cum laude. Dariel Cornelius Jernigan, Jr. Clarence Kendall Johnson. Jesse DeMarcus Wayne Johnson. Malik Khalil Johnson. Clifton Daniel Jordan II, cum laude. Jamal Brandon Joseph. Matthew Lewis Kelly. Anthony Kipleting Ketter. London K. Keys, cum laude. Kendall Chance King, magna cum laude. Robert Lee Kenny Jr., cum laude. Dontrell Kyrie Latta. Galen Bahari Lamel Brown, summa cum laude. Brandon David Lenore Jr., cum laude. Haston Lewis III. Kawan Martrell Little. Kyle Fletcher Lomax. Jonathan Edward Marshall II. Brian Keith Marshall Jr. Shay Elliott Martin. William Kibet Martin, cum laude. Thomas Keon McConnell, cum laude. Justin Christopher McElderry, magna cum laude. Vincent Augustus McFarlane III. Kevin Bradley McQuay. Marvin William Medley Jr. Christopher Preston Mercius, cum laude. Jonathan Lee Middlebrooks, cum laude. Gerard Edward Miles, cum laude. Dante Lamont Miller, cum laude. Torrin Earl Miller, cum laude. Kesman K. Moultrie Legree. Jonathan Okoli. Nasser Omar, cum laude. Jordan Richard Overton, summa cum laude. Sean Michael Paul Jr. Elijah Dominic Peterson. Moreo Brighton Phillips, cum laude. Joshua Alexander Pittman. David Eugene Quinn. Morris Wilson Randall III, cum laude. Garrett Morgan Ransom, cum laude. Bashir Hakeem Rashid. Brandon Joseph Ravenel, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Malik Jalil Ray, cum laude. Dewan Edwin Roby. Malik Anthony Sapp. Brandon Dion Sarton, cum laude. Enrico Sebastian Scott, cum laude. Gregory H. Smith. Rory Darnell Sparrow, Jr. Nathaniel Philip Sprawling. Alexander Noah Terry IV, cum laude. Chakaris Orion Thomas. Cornelius Taiwo Thomas. Julian Ginyard Turner. Cortland Montel Walls. Kimani Mandel Watson, cum laude. Evan Jabari Watt. Cameron Curtis Weathers, cum laude. Louis Andrew White III, cum laude. Samuel White Jr., cum laude. Thaddeus Lance White Jr. Christopher Donald White, cum laude. Drew Wilkins. Brian Lindsay Williams. Ronald Keith Williams Jr. Christopher Chavan Winston. Michael Terrence Wooten. Antoine Maurice Yee. Jordan Amari Youngblood, cum laude. Marcel Christian Decum Zay.
We in the Division of Business Administration and Economics also must pause to remember one of our students who transitioned before completing his time at Morehouse. Mr. Lawrence Stewart Jr. loved Morehouse so very much that he returned after a successful career at MBNA and with J.P. Morgan Chase to continue a journey he first started several years ago. And for those of us who knew Mr. Stewart, his impeccable smile indicated that he was happy to be back at Morehouse. And so we have draped a chair alongside the others in his class to signify his membership in this distinguished class of 2015. We are pleased to present the certificate of attendance to Mr. Stewart's family. If you would stand, please. Thank you, and again, our condolences. Gentlemen, you may now turn your tassels. Congratulations, and please be seated. Thank you.
President Wilson, it gives me great honor to present the candidates for the Bachelor of Arts degree and the Bachelor of Science degree from the Division of Science and Mathematics. Gentlemen, please stand, turn to your right, and place the hood on your fellow classmate standing in front of you. Please come forward as your name is called.
Salahuddin Raid Cheeks Abdul Malik, cum laude. Anthony Alonzo Aldrich II, cum laude. Tyler Christian Alexander. Zaire Ali, magna cum laude. Darius Jarrett Anderson, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. John L. Angel, cum laude. Reginald Dwayne Bailey, Jr., cum laude. Justin A. Bamberg, cum laude. Brandon Keith Barnett, cum laude. Marcus Dwayne Barnett II, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Timothy Drew Barnwell. Robertson Bassey. Logan Michael Batto. Asidnio Bell, cum laude. Colin Dale Bent Jr. Daniel Avery Masalas Bester. Jermaine Shaquille Blakely, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Kevin Bargella, cum laude. Michael Anthony Boswell, cum laude. Rodney Craig Boyd, Jr. Tyvon Wade Boykin. Dennis Lee Bronson III. Joseph Tate Brooks. Jabari James Burks, cum laude. Reuben Bernie III, cum laude. Jarrett Michael E. Reed Butler. Rakeem Anasio Butler, cum laude. Jarrett Deshaun Camp, cum laude. Adam George Carroll, cum laude. Aaron Joseph Nicholas Chisholm. Curtis Clark, Jr., cum laude. Colin James Cochran, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Michael Oliver Cole, cum laude. Christopher Maurice Colley II. Artis Isaiah Conley, cum laude. Brandon Laurencio Connor. George Thomas Cooper. DeMarcus Kennard Cruz. Anthony Crimes, cum laude. Stephen Eric Cunningham, cum laude. Julian Ricardo Dillard. Christian Everett Donald. Peter Lee Duthard, cum laude. Christopher Nolan Edwards. Obasi Hinsa Mackenzie Etienne, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Zachary Winston Fitch, cum laude. Matthew Delbert Flowers, cum laude. Tyrell Omari Freedy, cum laude. Anthony Carl Gambles Jr., cum laude. DeBoyje Shenard Gatson Abney. Kendall George Gillard. Johnny Ray Gillings Jr., magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Jamil Tari Bene Givens, cum laude. Nelson Garnell Graves II, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Aman Alexander Green, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Kahai Kishan Hall, cum laude. Taylor Wayne Hampton, cum laude. Michael Darrell Harding Jr. Miles David Harper. Gary Allen Harris II. Otis Russell Harrison II, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Cameron Austin Haslip, cum laude. Aaron Hannibal Hemphill, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Austin Carey Henderson II. Brian J. Hill Jr. Joshua N. Hill, cum laude. Tyler Jacob Hill, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Nicholas James Hines, magna cum laude. Joshua Henry Halsey. Jashim Ramia Eifel, cum laude. Darius Ellis James, cum laude. Ralph Nicholas Jean, cum laude. Alexander Julian Jenkins. Nicholas Alexander Johnson, magna cum laude. Timothy Donnell Jones Jr. Dorian Michael Candy, cum laude. Matthew Benjamin Kelly, cum laude. Chan Nyan Cho, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Andrew Jonathan LaPelusa, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Martin Jarrett Lewis. LeBron Lawarge Logan. Joshua Edward Manley Lee, cum laude. Jalen Marquise Marshall, magna cum laude. Christian Howard Mayfield, cum laude. Cody Alexander McAvoy. Christopher Adrian McLean. Elman Anthony Merriman. Evan Reginald Miller, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Alfonso Gordon Mills. Andrew Stephen Miller, cum laude. Nicholas Anthony Mitchell Woods. Chesmore Simon Monteith, cum laude. Christopher A. Moody. James Richard Nichols, cum laude. Michael Tete Osabute, cum laude. Joshua Cartier Posey, cum laude. Blake Edward Powell, summa cum laude. Troy Darnell Pretelo. Glenn Lloyd Reeves, Jr. Akia Ashan Richburg, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Jordan Christopher Roberts. Camaray Craig Rouse. Kendall Thomas Sands, cum laude. Anwar El Zayin Shejarabi, cum laude. Willie Jackson Singleton. Cameron Roland Smith. Jalen Travell Smith, cum laude. Caleb Solomon, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Andre Lamont Southern. Charlie Spell IV, cum laude. Jamir Paul Stewart. Stephen Barnett Summers, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Erwin M. Sweetwine II, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Jonathan Jamel Tebow, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Brian Kadim Thomas. Shavaz Lyndon Edward Thomas, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Jamal Richard Thorne, cum laude. Jalani Akeem Traxler, cum laude. Takana Hamone Tubo, cum laude. James Madison Avery Tuggle, cum laude. Martin Cornelius Ugwu, Jr., cum laude. John Taj Villas, magna cum laude. Emmanuel Austin Waddell III, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. William Robert Wadman Warren III, cum laude. John Alexander Watford, magna cum laude. Matthew Bennett Wells, cum laude. Daniel Alonzo West, cum laude. Guy Anthony Williams II, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. Rashad Wilson Williams. Stefan Thurston DeBard Williams, cum laude. Andre Maurice Wilson II, cum laude. Israel Stefan John Wilson.
Congratulations. You may now turn your tassels. Gentlemen, please be seated.
ROTC officers. ROTC officer candidates, please come to the stage to take the ceremonial oath of office. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Baron Reinhold, Professor of Naval Science and Commanding Officer, ROTC Unit, Atlanta Region, will come forward and give the oath of office to our newly commissioned military officers.
Congratulations, Morehouse Class of 2015. As you know, you're joining an exclusive brotherhood unlike any other in the world. Morehouse graduates have the well-earned reputation of graduating men who live character, who seek excellence, and who do not only aspire to better themselves, but also the world around them. Morehouse NROTC has graduated over 230 naval officers over the years. Those officers have gone on to highly successful careers serving our great nation. The officers on stage before you are your classmates and our newly commissioned officers. They are not only elite Morehouse men, but they are now part of 1% of the American citizens who currently are serving on active duty or who have previously served our country on active duty. These classmates of yours have chosen to put themselves between you and those enemies of our country who intend to do you harm. They have chosen of their own free will to defend America and are prepared to give their lives in its defense. Each one of these officers will depart here in a few short days or weeks to commence training, and then they will report to their first tour of duty to stand the post. They are to be commended for their hard work that has earned them a commission in the armed forces, and they are to be commended in advance for the impacts that they are sure to have as Morehouse men and officers in shaping the future of our nation. They will now renew their oath to defend the United States and our way of life. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I state your name.
Having been appointed an officer in the United States military, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation, or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Let's give them another hand, please. And now, to induct our newest graduates into the ranks of the alumni, please welcome the president of the Morehouse College Alumni Association, Mr. Kevin McGee, a member of the class of 1993 and a member of the Morehouse College Board of Trustees, who will administer the charge of loyalty and support. President McGee.
Brothers, I know you thought the tests were over, but we have one more test for you. So as an alumnus, we need to be able to make sure that we can lean on you, that you can help us out and we can help one another. So I need your help today. So can I lean on you for a moment? I need your encouragement today. So a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I had probably the biggest scare of our lives. I have two daughters. One is Kayla, one is Amaya. Kayla is 12. Kayla was rushed to the hospital because my wife noticed an enlarged abdomen. After being admitted, the doctors told us that they'd have to do surgery the next day, which comes as a surprise because I'm a Renaissance black man, so we're vegetarian, vegan, ovo-lactotarian, pescatarian, organic, free range, all that. We live a very healthy life, but here my daughter is lying on the operating table, and 4 hours later, the doctors informed us that they removed a cancerous tumor and her kidney. No symptoms, no knowledge, clearly out of the blue. So in 2 weeks, my whole life has been turned around. And so today, as I stand before you, I probably should be at home. But I think you are important. What you have inside of you is important. Important to this world. Important to your families. But even as I sit here thinking about myself and my family and my daughter, who's going to be okay? I look over, praise God. I look over at the families of your two fallen classmates, and I humble myself, and I give them reverence and respect because my daughter's still here. Right? You're still here. And so I'd just like to share with you a few words of, dare I say, wisdom from a young man. I may not be as sagacious or wise as my golden tigers, but I'm going to drop a little knowledge on you. So if there are three things that I could share with you that I think would help you be a better alumnus, they would be this. Know what you value, but better importantly, know who's valuable to you. You have many friends, colleagues, relationships, but how many of them are valuable to you? Second thing I would say is quickly discern and understand God's purpose for your life, right? Our very own Benjamin May says that each man and woman was born into this world to do something unique, something distinctive, and that if he or she does not do it, it'll never be done. So what is it that you ought to do? What is your mark on the world? As I think about the 4 years that you've probably spent in college, every year the nation has heard about a young black man dying. Trayvon Martin, Jordan Davis, Michael Brown, Eric Garner. And so I can't help but think or even hope that some of your purposes are to go back and build communities, finance businesses, mentor young men who look just like you, mentor young men like Trayvon and Jordan. Be everything that you can be and discern God's purpose for your life. And the last thing I would share with you is pretty easy, pretty quick. Once you understand what you value in life and once you understand God's purpose for your life, don't waste your time pursuing anything else. You never know how much time you have. Amen. So having said that, will all the members of the class of 2015 please stand? All right. All right. No institution of higher education can be stronger than its alumni. Therefore, those who have earned their degrees and accepted the honor of becoming a Morehouse graduate must reach back and give back in support of the ongoing mission of our institution. I'm confident that you will assist those in your community, as I've mentioned, that you will assist those in the world. And remember that what you do and what you have is not who you are. Therefore, by the power invested in me as president of the Alumni Association, I am pleased to induct you to the Morehouse College Alumni Association with all of the rights and privileges of a distinguished Morehouse man. The rites of passage you started on Friday are now over. But I ask you to remember that when you bear the insignia of a Morehouse man and you sport that lapel pin that we gave you, remember that you had expected to do exceptionally well. In fact, we expect nothing less. We expect that you would connect with your chapters and your other alumni. We hope that you will represent us well and play an active role in supporting both your college and your alumni association. And so having said that, I'd like all the alumni to stand. As a show of support, we stand not beside you, but with you, to encourage you, to stand with you. So by a round of applause, brothers, let's welcome these young men into the ranks of Morehouse men. God bless you all. Godspeed.
You may be seated. Thank you, President McGee. We will continue to pray for you and your family, and especially your daughter. At this time, the Glee Club will perform the traditional commencement anthem prayer from Lohengrin. Former members of the Glee Club who remember the song are invited, that should be all of us, to come to the platform and join in the singing of this selection.
Oh,
And now we're about to close. My charge. The recent trouble in cities like Ferguson, Cleveland, New York, and Baltimore all spotlight our dire need to make of this old world a new world. And for that reason, my charge to you, the class of 2015, is grounded in the Morehouse dream. Our founders dreamed of a better Morehouse for one reason, and one reason only, because they knew a better Morehouse would produce better men, and better men would produce a better world, and a better world would ultimately fulfill the promise of God. So there is, in the very DNA of this college, a dream capacity that those of us who administer and profess are called to evoke and invoke. We are called to inspire and instill. And our job at Morehouse College is to transfuse into the hearts and the minds of each and every graduate this profound capacity to dream. So I simply ask you, our 131st graduating class, what is your dream as you leave here? Significant lives are lived by people who approach each day as if nothing else matters but to realize a dream, fulfill a vision, or live out a passion. And this is a timeless truth. It is a human truth. Moses dreamed of a promised land for his people before he even set out for it. Ida B. Wells dreamed of a world without lynching and with women's rights. Dr. King dreamed about a place he called the beloved community. And in residence halls nearby, Paul Judge dreamed big dreams and is now creating his fourth company. Some of you in this class right now realize that you too have the power to shape a new world. All you have to do is focus and conduct your life as if you know exactly why you are on this earth. But because so few of the 7 billion people on earth ever figure out why they are here, my charge to you, my prayer for you, my expectation of you is that soon and very soon, each of you will come to a point of unprecedented clarity in your life about why you were born, about why you're here. And then finally, when you finally know why you are here, for the sake of God, for the sake of life, for the sake of Morehouse, I want you to think and act like it. I want you to believe and achieve like it. I want you to live and love like it. Class of 2015, as you leave here, I charge each of you to dream big and selfless dreams, because it is still true. A better Morehouse can make better men, and better men can make a better world, and a better world will put a smile on the face of God. May God bless you and keep you. May his face shine on and be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you brand new Morehouse men. Peace, peace, peace. Amen.
Thank you, President Wilson. And again, on behalf of our entire college family, let me thank each of you for joining us in this celebration. the 131st Commencement of Morehouse College. As we prepare to close the program, we ask that you remain seated and keep the aisles clear until the recessional ends. We understand how eager you are to embrace and congratulate your graduates. However, please allow them to complete the recessional march with their Morehouse brothers on this, their special day. Reverend Dr. Miller, the 131st Commencement Convocation of Morehouse College is now concluded. Please stand for the singing of the college hymn, Dear Old Morehouse, after which the Reverend Dr. Lawrence Edward Carter Sr., Dean of the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel, will give the benediction. Following the benediction, we ask the audience to remain seated for the spiritual Fare Ye Well and the recessional.
Let us bow our heads to our hearts and receive this final prayer. And now, as directed by the wisdom of God, may the luminous yet unseen archangels of the universe whisper this benediction to you. Well done. Behold the bounty of your beauty. Spread the generosity of your joy. Hunger for the immensity of God. Ignite the world with the fire of your compassion. Live fully, love unconditionally, forgive completely. Choose to live passionately and joyfully at the highest level of your value, not your success. And with this assurance, I boldly declare and decree that your Morehouse wings are now strong enough for you to fly above the commonplace as you share your blessings across the human race. So be it, so are you, and so it is. Let everyone say, Amen.
Fare ye well. Fare ye well. Fare ye well. Fare ye well. If I never ever see you